Hi, my name is Nick Bates, and I'm a deacon in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America and director of the Hunger Network in Ohio. We are a statewide ministry that is ecumenical and believes that we can end hunger in Ohio by addressing the root causes of poverty through public policy advocacy. We seek to build relationships with lawmakers and policymakers, as well as people in our community who have experienced hunger and hardship, and those in our congregations and communities that dedicate their time and efforts to helping make sure that all of our neighbors receive their daily bread. By bringing people together around the idea that we can end hunger, we can try to find solutions, remove barriers and obstacles, and make sure that our systems are working in a way that benefits everybody. Now, the reality is this past year has been very difficult for those who are hungry and struggling to make ends meet, as well as those in our congregations and communities that are trying to serve them. The pandemic's been hard. Hunger is up. It's harder to volunteer, harder to recruit volunteers and seek and solicit donations. And the reality is the pandemic has exposed a lot of problems that existed before the pandemic and amplified them and made them worse. The high cost and lack of access to adequate child care, the learning inequalities and educational opportunity inequality that exists around our state from urban to suburban to rural communities, lack of broadband access, lack of nearby grocery stores for people. All of these things were compounded over the past year and a half during the pandemic. But it doesn't need to be this way because we have a God of abundance. Our God has provided. Throughout this pandemic, I've been reminded of the old story where there was a man who lived near a river, and he was sitting at home one day and he heard a radio message come on saying that the river was going to flood. Sure enough, the rain started to fall, and the man had not evacuated. The rains came down, and he said, I'm faithful. I pray. God will provide for me. The waters came up, and then a boat came by his home and said, hey, jump in the boat. We'll take you to safety. The man said, no need for that. I'm faithful. I pray. I know God will provide for me. The rains continued to come down, and the river continued to come up, and the man climbed onto his roof, and a helicopter came by and said, hey, grab the rope. We'll take you to safety. The man said, no, God will protect me. God will provide for me. I pray. I'm faithful. The man drowned. He gets to heaven. He's a little irate. He goes up to God, and God is a little frustrated as well. The man says, God, why did you protect me? I'm faithful and I pray. You were supposed to provide for me. God, in dismay, says, I've sent you a radio message, a boat, and a helicopter. What are you doing here? God does provide for us. Throughout the pandemic, God has provided us with public health experts to help us understand the importance of wearing masks and washing our hands and social distancing. God has provided us scientists to research and develop vaccines to help us heal. And in the same way, God has provided enough food, enough clean water, enough space, enough clean air for all of us. God has provided. The difficulty is that we sometimes, in human sinfulness and greed and selfishness and fear and lack of understanding, have developed systems that keep those resources away from those who need them most. So in our communities, there is enough food. There is enough wealth. There is enough educational opportunity for all of our children. There is enough love to go around so that everybody can live with dignity. Problem is we have to figure out how to do it. And God has provided all of us who have different viewpoints and stories to be able to come together as a community, as a state. And whether it's Central Ohio or throughout the state or the country, to figure out how do we solve these most pressing issues. This past year, we've spent a lot of time working on the state budget, making sure we can get the dollars into our schools to make sure that we have educational equity. And the zip code and race and economic status of a child should not determine the quality of education they will receive. We've advocated for social service systems so that barriers are not created and set up that will cause people to have to sell cars or quit their job if they are struggling to make ends meet. The benefit cliff is real. As people start to get ahead, they lose more in benefits. And we have to continue to address that and not make it worse. So these are some of the things that we are working on and will continue to work on in the coming months because of the support of communities like yours at St. Albans and other people of faith throughout the state of Ohio. Thank you and have a blessed day, and may God's peace be with you.